Hey everybody, it's Refresh, and I'm here to take a look at the Deadly Discovery Challenger deck for Magic the Gathering. This is from the 2019 series of Challenger decks, and inside you get a 60-card deck, a 15-card sideboard, a deck box, and a life counter. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's inside. Here's our deck box. We have a spacer inside. We have our spin down counter in white with an N19 symbol on it. We've got our main deck, our sideboard, an ad, and a card divider. Take a look at the main deck. We've got a Vraska. It's the main deck. Here's the sideboard. And that is everything inside this. I'll play this against its counterparts, and I'll be back to let you know what I think. So let's talk about Deadly Discovery. This deck has some really good synergy, and it has a few weaknesses. But the basic plan of this deck is to be sort of a value-y, grindy deck. And its win conditions are either the Wild Growth Walker, if you can grow it big enough, it'll give you a good buffer of life, or just being able to keep your opponent's board clear and then hitting your opponent with, 2 1s, or if you're lucky, maybe you get a 4/3 Jade Light Ranger, or you're able to steal something from your opponent with the Eldritch Reborn. But basically, the loop of the game is you want to get a Wild Growth Walker down, and then you want to start exploring with your Merfolk Branchwalkers, your Secret Squires, your Jade Light Rangers. Eventually, stuff is going to start dying, and then you're going to get those things back, either with Eldritch Reborn, Golgari Findbroker, Find of the Find Finality half, and then use those abilities to keep triggering your Explore creatures by getting your Jade Light Rangers back, for example, or getting more value by replaying your Ravenous Chupacabras to blow up their creatures and such. And I think that's pretty much what this deck is trying to do. It's not the most successful plan because there are a lot of ways that this can go south. Like if your Wild Growth Walkers are removed and then you play them later in the game, you're going to run out of ways to trigger that Explore ability. Without that, even if you're 2-for-1ing off of things like the Golgari Findbroker or the Ravenous Chupacabra, a lot of times you're going to find yourself just too slow and without any large threats. Because let's say that you get your Wild Growth Walker back and you play it. How are you going to explore it that many more times when you are running out of cards to play? It sort of limits you. Now, there are some hedges in this deck. For example, you can cast Finality to do a full board wipe, and your deck is slightly better at recovering because you have all those ways of getting cards back from your yard, or, in the case of Eldritch Reborn, stealing cards from your opponent's yard. But I do think that there is a bit of a limitation on this deck because of its lack of really strong win conditions. You have Vraska, I guess, as a win condition. Otherwise, you're just going to hope to get there with Wild Growth Walkers. Which, yes, the life gain can help you get there in terms of being able to grind out against aggressive decks, but this is not the most winning formula that I have seen. Still, if you do like the Golgari getting tons of value deck, this can still be enjoyable. The sideboard in this deck is actually pretty straightforward. A lot of times you don't have to worry too much about what you need. However, I think there still needs to be a strategy insert or something with this deck that tells you what to do against certain types of decks, right? Like, I know from playing Magic a lot that Duress is what you want to put in against control decks or decks that have really powerful spells that you cannot let your opponent get off because otherwise it'll be the end for you. And I'm guessing Argyle's Bloodfast is also for control decks to help you get card draw to keep up with them, but that's all I can think of. We have the Crawl Harpooners, I suppose, as ways to get rid of flyers. Perhaps is it Drake's deck or something like that? But you also have a lot of just straight removal that you can use, like the Ravenous Chupacabra, the Cast Downs, as well as the Murders that are put in here, and I suppose that's because sometimes you need to kill the legendary creature, and the Cast Down won't do it, so that's why you put that in there. Still, I think some sort of strategy guide would help. Like, just lay out the objective of the deck, tell us how to get there, and what all the cards do to help. If it weren't for the fact that this didn't have a very strong win condition, aside from Vraska, which is just a one of, I think that this is still a pretty fun deck, especially in terms of the value that it provides and the feeling of growing your Wild Growth Walkers and such. But that is the most I can commend it for. If you have any experience with this deck, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, whether it's this deck or the actual full powered version of this deck that was running around in standard. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more such videos, you can hit subscribe. This is Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.